crashing on, man? It's Dion Dawkins, and you listening to the Real Deal Sports Show on the Beat 105.5.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Real Deal Sports Show, coming through your speakers loud and clear on this Saturday morning. Real Deal Sports Show with the Radman, coming live from the Rock Palm Broker Studios each and every Saturday morning. Welcome to the show, and we got a lot of things to talk about today. I expected to be traveling up to New England today for the Bills-Patriots game, but changing plans. Gotta use that. You don't have to rent that car for this weekend because, as most of you know, the Bills wet the bed down out in Denver, Colorado. I never saw such a disaster act put on by the Bills. The Bills, it was a very winnable game. It even seemed like the Denver Broncos was trying to give the Bills the game late in the contest. Guys were wide open. Yeah. Sound the alarm. Acting up late in that game. Two things that came to matter to me. One, Josh Allen. Man, you're not Patrick Mahomes, man. Don't try to be Patrick Mahomes. Just be yourself. Do what you want, but be who you are. A famous Hall & Oates song. Do what you want. Be who you are, man. Stop trying to put a cape on. You don't need to put a cape on. I mean, if the coach tells you to throw a Hail Mary pass at the end of the half, throw the Hail Mary pass. Don't go. What are you running for? I mean, the rules are set up not to get the quarterbacks hurt. If somebody's coming at you, throw the ball right into the ground. Throw the ball away, and the play's over. You don't have to run. Why are you running with the football like a loaf of bread? Got it out there in harm's way. Causes a fumble. The Bills go down by in less than a minute. The Bills go down by 10 points from a tie ball game at halftime, then go down 23-10 in the third. And miraculously, Josh Allen plays with he seems like he gets crazier as the game goes on. The Bills come back. The key point to me in the game was when the Bills took the lead 24-23. Allen misses Knox down at the 5-yard line. That should have been normally a completion and a touchdown for Dawson Knox. And we could have been all hailing the Kelce and Mahomes trio up in Buffalo, Knox and Allen, or Allen and Knox. We thought that was going to be the thing at that time, but it was not to be because for whatever reason, Josh Allen puts too much pressure on himself, and he was horrible. I mean, McCole Hardman was wide open. All you had to do was just throw the ball to him. He turned around, he's open, and then when you threw it into the ground. McCole Hardman had to dive for it, and the ball was incomplete passes. Allen was just, oh my gosh. He was not the guy Utah MVP and all of the whole 9 yards. So he came in the locker room. He owned. That's what I like about the young man. He owned it. He ain't tried to duck and dodge. Yes, you lost the game with the sorry play that you did when you had the opportunity to put the Denver Broncos away. Your guys were open. You just missed open receivers 3 critical times in that game. The play, I didn't even worry about the Brandon Cooks play because that play shouldn't even came into matter. The Bills should have had that game wrapped up. And the only thing I could also say about Sean McDermott on the play, when Bills went up 27-23, McDermott, your defense got to make the stop. You got to make the stop, McDermott. You can't allow your defense to, on 3rd and 12, you already blitzed them. You sacked them. They sacked them for a loss. 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 16 it was. Why would you play as drop into zone and allow Bo Nix to throw the ball underneath the zone for 20 yards to get the first down? Why wouldn't you put pressure, come with a blitz, send somebody, a blitzer, to force Bo Nix off the spot and force him to get rid of the ball early on 4th down, 3rd down, possibly 4th down to end the game? Your defense should have ended the game. And as it turned out, all these games, the head coach is talking to the owner and sits up in the box and watches the game with Brandon Beane. And obviously Brandon Beane got in his ear sometime during the season. Now we're hearing that there was a meeting 5 weeks ago with 5 weeks left in the regular season where McDermott was complaining about the roster. So maybe that's when things started to go south for McDermott. Beane got the ear of the owner, and I don't know what that was all about. Why in the world would McDermott lose this game when obviously he knew his job was on the line? It's just
suspicious.
Very
suspicious.
You don't
find that suspicious?
It does. Everyone should find that suspicious. It's very suspicious that McDermott would lose this game. You wonder why he was crying. Everybody was crying. I think everybody knew that, hey, man, things were going to change once they lost that game. When they walked off that field, that was the last time you were going to see the Buffalo Bills as the Buffalo Bills under the McDermott era. Because keep in mind, McDermott called all the shots. McDermott went behind and got Doug Whaley ousted as the general manager, stabbed Doug Whaley in the back, and then, hey, just like, hey, time comes back. It comes back to haunt him. He gets stabbed in the back by Brandon Beane. Brandon Beane and his crew takes over the place. All because
Radman.
Not finish off. Yes, internet passport. Come on in here. We got Bilal in here too.
Radman.
Yes.
A real deal sports show with the Radman. That was one epic Radman rant. You know, as we always have the sound of the alarm there for him. We also have our usual Bernard from Bro Talk and Zeal Talk Upstate with J-GILLZ. A lot has happened over this past week within 7 days. Who would have thought things would have looked like this? But I just have to end up saying when things get tough, that's why it's always good to have a second option. And that's why this Radman rant is sponsored by award-winning Miriam Rivera Insurance Agency, Auto, Home, Health, and Life Insurance, 1038 Lyle Ave or 50 or at 511 Bean Road, Suite B. Call them. They give great insurance, whatever you need, at 585-360-0094. But moving on there, Radman panel. Whoo, it was a lot of things going on, a lot of sadness. It was a tough day for everybody. It was a tough day. Okay, it's just bodies were dropping. People were moving on. It was just tough. I remember the last time we ended up being on, it was a couple of things that we saw beforehand. People were getting hired and people were getting what?
You're fired! You're fired!
A lot of people were in there getting fired. Okay, it was a lot of rough things going on. So after that dramatic loss, again, heartbreaking loss there in that locker room. We saw the tears. We saw the dejectedness. We saw the pain. Later in the week, Sean McDermott ended up being relieved of his duties, a.k.a. fired. And then one thing that also shocked people after Sean McDermott was let go was Brandon Beane being promoted to the czar of football for the Buffalo Bills, the head president of football operations. Now, panel starting with you, Radman, have to ask. Question: out of these options, which one would you have done there if you were the owner of the Buffalo Bills? Option one, you fire no one. Everyone gets to stay. You run it back another season. Option B, everybody goes. Head coach and GM, you're both out of here. Or option C, you just had the head coach. Or option D, you just had the GM. Radman, what do you think? What would you have done?
Both had to go. Both had to go. Being with sorry decision making, but a lot of that decision making, because McDermott was the head man and calling the shots, Bean could have said, "Hey man, we don't need to get Darius Slay, man. We got Jamarcus Ingram. We got enough guys back here that can do it. We got some younger guys that can get the job done." And McDermott, 27-23, and of course, let's go back to 13 seconds. I wrote in my Challenger article back then in 2022 that Sean McDermott would never lead the Buffalo Bills to the Super Bowl, to a Super Bowl appearance, just getting to a Super Bowl. I felt that in my bones. I wrote it in that article, and I stand to it today. Pat, he just, for some odd reason, 3rd down and 16 yards, put the blitz on Bo Nix, man. Force Bo Nix. Bo Nix is an average quarterback. Force him to get rid of the ball. Why would you allow him to just dissect your defense in a zone defense that hasn't worked? You just kept going back. 8 years is enough. McDermott has to go. Bean has to go with him. In a perfect world, Malik Boyd would be the guy making the decisions at this time, the head of pro football player, college and pro personnel for the Buffalo Bills. He should have moved into that position.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Radman. So you're saying they both should have been out of there. All right. Some good points that you made. All right, J-GILLZ, what have you thought?
Man,
if you were the owner of the Bills, what would you do?
Hey, man, good morning, Real Deal Sports Show family. Man, I'm going to tell you right there, Radman had it right. You got to let them both go, but you got to let them both go with a plan. What I'm seeing right now from the Buffalo Bills is it's laughable. it's making them the laughing stock of the NFL. I mean, a franchise that over the last 9 years was shown stability, showed a great fan base, it had a great leadership with the head coach, and now in just 7 days, it all diminishes and crumbles because what the heck are the Buffalo Bills doing? If you're gonna fire them both, and if I was the owner, I would have fired them both. Sean McDermott, who hasn't sniffed the Super Bowl in over a decade, due to his lack of coaching and his bad execution and decisions over these last several years. And of course, Brandon Beane, that roster is just so terrible. No elite playmakers on offense, no elite playmakers on defense. He hasn't drafted but 2 Pro Bowlers. Come on, man. And it just goes to show the remarkable job of Sean McDermott for making that
a few steps back.
You feel me? Making them look so good over the last couple of years, but you have to have a plan. And for them to be interviewing Mike McDaniels and Phillip Rivers, and come on, man, we told y'all last week who you had to go with. You had to go get Buffalo Bill Belichick, and it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. So I think that is going to be continued chaos in Buffalo. No directions moving forward, because whatever coach gets in there, you have one goal, and that's to get to a Super Bowl. And I don't see a first-time head coach or a recycled head coach with the Buffalo Bills having to relearn the defensive scheme. You know what I mean? Sean McDermott has been running that scheme for over a decade. That's why he could just plug and play anybody in there, and it's shown to be effective. His decision making and the lack of elite playmakers to rush the quarterback and can really really seek out and get those interceptions. Even though Chris Benford did pretty good, but they need a true guy who could attack and rush the quarterback. That's why I thought they really failed at getting a guy like Micah Parsons when the Dallas Cowboys traded him over to Green Bay. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you could have had Jalen Waddle. That's been reported. But you're recycling these old guys: Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley. I'm surprised they didn't get Adam Thielen when he was available. That's a Buffalo Bills pick. Just a complete lack of talent. But it's just a laughing stock and it's a joke. And I don't think I think the better days are behind them.
And J-GILLZ, so it sounds like you're agreeing with Radman. Both of them should have been gone. And one thing we'll never have the answer to, because we will all agree, seeing Jordan Phillips come back after no team wants to sign him again to the Bills roster, not sure how that would help them, but was that a GM decision or was that a coaching decision? Now, we learned that some things was collaboration, and then Terry Pegula saying some things was a coaching decision, but we're going to come back to that. Brother Bernal with Bro Talk. But what would you have done if you were the head coach? I mean, not the head coach, the owner of the Buffalo Bills, when it comes to your staff.
So I can't go back to 2022 like Radman, but I can go back to before the playoffs started and we had this conversation, and the question was, if the Bills don't make it to a Super Bowl, is McDermott out of there? And I said then, in a vacuum, because of the absence of Kansas City, no Baltimore, no Burrow, if the Bills aren't able to get to at least the Super Bowl, then I thought like that McDermott would be out of there. If I'm Terry Pegula, I think ultimately I got to go with Radman and J-GILLZ on there in terms of both having to be gone, but the absence of the plan is what's most concerning for me. If one of the two had to be gone, I feel like it would have had to have been Beane over McDermott. You can have all the X's and O's in the world. If you got no Johnnies and Joes, all the X's and O's in the world aren't going to save you. And again, to kind of points that have already been made, but they brought in, they've tried to bring in, those retreads. You got they tried to bring in Von Miller, and that didn't work out. To try to get that pass rush, they tried to, they Bosa, and it didn't quite work out. And I come back to another point that Radman made about the game against Kansas City in 13 seconds, where they fired Leslie Frazier. McDermott fired Leslie Frazier after that game as if it was Leslie Frazier's fault. So I felt like, man, how poetic was it that this game ends on the Buffalo Bills defense not being able to get a stop that could have potentially saved them the game. But you go back and what goes around comes around. So what came around, what went around came back around for McDermott and that defense. And he's a defensive guy. He was a DC. Is what cost the Buffalo Bills. So yeah, I felt like they, if they had a plan, if there would have been a plan in place, the ideal scenario is that they both go. But it's looking really bad for Buffalo right now because it's obvious that there was no plan in place other than, hey, Beans throwing him under the bus, Pagula's throwing McDermott under the bus. It's bad. You didn't to get that interview that we got, that press conference we got this week from Terry Pagula and Bean. It shows you just how much dysfunction is going on in Buffalo, and I think it's tragic for the fans because Josh Allen, you don't get franchise quarterbacks every day, and they don't fall off trees, and haven't had one since Jim Kelly. If you fumble it this time, it'll be a long time before you get another one.
And it seems like our expert panel were all in agreement of you guys after that game. Like Terry Pagula said, went into that locker room. Maybe you knew after these 9 seasons, the head coach will have to go and the GM would have to go. And thanks for the comment from Top Gun 9, rest of your name. Will you clean house or get ready for an unpredictable season? Because you don't know what you're gonna get, and that is true, Top Gun. We don't know what we're gonna get. And thank you for the comment. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook at Real Deal Sports Show. It's right now the Bills are gonna have to interview for a new head coach, and that's gonna be led there. They're casting a very wide net there as well. It's gonna be very interesting to see. But one thing I want to ask for you guys, I think one thing that we noticed from the press conference, it reinforces why Terry Pagula rarely takes media questions. And I know, he's the owner of the team. He's a billionaire. He could do what he wants. He pays the cost to be the boss. Okay, we get that, and we know he's been dealing with a lot of things outside of football when it comes to his family. I think that's understandable to take that into consideration as well. But man, some players and some staff were taking some strays, as the kids say. Man, from Sean McDermott to Keon Coleman. I just want to know what, gentlemen, starting with you, Radman, what was your reaction, or what did you take away from that postseason press conference with Bills owner Terry Pagula and with the now president of football operations / GM Brandon Beane?
Doing for the last 8 to 9 years. It shows what a great job Sean McDermott has been doing for the last 8 to 9 years, keeping this whole, running everything, keeping the owner out of it, and making the decisions. He made a lot of good decisions. He made some bad decisions. To me, his only problem was on field, making the stops. And it just showed you with Terry Pagula speaking, it let the whole world know what an idiot and what that he's not that bright of a guy. And for him to throw Keon Coleman under the bus. And then first, his opening statement about, well, I went in the locker room and saw them crying. Well, I'm just wondering, did you go to the locker room in Kansas City after the 13-second game? Because I remember coming down off the elevator, and they were rushing the media people away from the locker room. Alan Getzenberg and people from the Buffalo ESPN and the Buffalo local media who was already downstairs, they ran them back out of the locker room area because we heard what sounded like chairs. We obviously it was a fight or dispute in that locker room. We found out later on Stephon Diggs and him and the defensive back had got into it, and man, it was all hell broke loose in that Kansas City Bills locker room after the 13-second game. So I don't know.
He ain't lying.
I don't know what he talked. I was like, well, weren't you in Kansas City, man? You don't remember the 13-second, how that locker room exploded? And guys were fighting and guys were going at you. It sounded like chairs were being busted up. And finally, they what they did was they had Mitch Morris, and we ended up doing the interview via Zoom with Mitch Morris. Was one of the first guys we ended up talking to. We went back upstairs, did it from upstairs, and listened, talked with Mitch Morris, and then a couple other guys that they specifically came out. We really didn't get a chance to talk to people individually or walk around in the locker room like we normally.
So Radman, so post game press conference of this year. I know the 13-second game. Yeah. That's another loss that was heartbreaking. That was tough. But after this Denver loss and after listening what Bean and Terry Pegula had to say, what was your initial reaction from that?
No plan. It was and he even said it was a knee-jerk reaction. I thought the Bills PR department should have put a prepared statement together for Terry Pegula because he's not a talker. He can't talk. Remember, he's very just ignorant, man. The man can't talk well. And when he made the statement back during the Colin Kaepernick with the dispute, when they were having meetings, and he told them if the players don't like it, they could go back to Africa, allegedly. And then in the Jim Trotter situation, some other racial comments attributed to him. Remember, there's 32 owners in the league. How come you twice get called out by players saying that you're saying inflammatory racial statements about players, and then for him to throw Keon Coleman under the bus when nobody even brought up Keon Coleman's name? What are you doing, man? It just shows you that, hey, Sean McDermott really did a hell of a job keeping this team together and keeping the organization moving forward in the right direction and winning these division titles and unfortunately never making the Super Bowl. That's what it showed me. What a great job behind the scenes Sean McDermott had to deal with an owner like this who's now out in the open, and now all the media, everybody across the country talked about him most of the week. Like, man, what's that guy up in Buffalo? Man, wow. What? That's it. It just opened up a whole new can of worms, and now we're seeing the ramifications of that press conference coming up, guys. That's what that press conference showed.
Okay, Radman. All right, J-GILLZ, what was your reaction there to that press conference?
Man, most definitely. First of all, to me, it just exposed. It truly did expose the power structure that was going on in Buffalo. And I think we all were very surprised at. You know, if you talk to Radman or the Mighty Oba over the years, they would have never saw a move like this coming where Sean McDermott's gone and Brandon Beane gets not only staying, but gets promoted. Because we all know that Sean McDermott's been running the show for years. He's been bringing in the talent. He's been getting all of his guys. Sean McDermott was the guy. Everything in Buffalo ran through Sean McDermott, but at least that's what it looked like on the outside. But after a move like this and after a press conference like that, man, that doesn't it expose? It's like they pulled the rug right under everybody. And, when it comes to the image of the Buffalo Bills, it was all nice and dandy. But, man, did they expose some stuff. It really, that power structure is really it's not going to produce any winning football, if you ask me. Sean McDermott and it kind of likened me to the Brian Flores and Chris Greer, the GM and the coach. You're always going to find this is nothing new to football, but we never thought that it was going to be happening in Buffalo. So if you ask me, if there's one person who gets the blame, it's Steve Biscotti, because he had his Ravens press conference and all the owners thought it was going to be cool to come out and say something. Nah, man, sometimes it's the best just straight nothing. Everybody ain't Steve, man. He's saying Steve all cool, talking this, popping this stuff. Nah, man. Terry, just stay home, Terry. And we sending prayers to Kim. But it was unacceptable, and it exposed a lot. And I think that Bills Mafia, they still kind of like in wild mode. Who knows what's gonna happen? But like I said, one thing I do believe is that this Buffalo Bills team is on the way down, man. You got guys like Drake May, you got guys like Bo Nix, and it's not looking good for the Buffalo Bills, if you ask me.
There we go, J-GILLZ. There we go. So, all right, it's people seem a little bit down on what's going to happen there with the Bills, but one thing that we definitely saw there, and I'll paraphrase, was this: is that Brandon Beane basically came out there, and Terry Pegula too. They basically said something kind of like this:
"Look at me, sure. Look at me, sure. I'm the captain now.
They just said, hey, man, this dude's in charge. Brandon Bean, you're the captain. Lead this ship. Lead this team. But no, bro talk. What's your reaction when it comes to this teams? And do you have any questions when it comes to this organization?
Going back to this is exactly why I'm gonna phrase what I'm about to say. When you see Terry Pegula and Bean come out and have that press conference, it lets you know how much dysfunction is going on in Buffalo. And that's exactly why I said in response to the first question, why would if it was going to be a one or the other, to me, Bean should have been gone. But when you do the head coach's dirty work, or you do the owner's dirty work, of course you're going to get rid of the head coach and not the GM. It's a lot of dysfunction going on in Buffalo, and I feel like that's more of the reason why the future could be really ugly for the Bills, especially if they don't make the right head coaching hire in Buffalo, because it's not about Bo Nix and Drake May or all of the other quarterbacks in the AFC and the talent around the conference. I feel like it's more of a reflection of the dysfunction that you're not going to be able to overcome your own dysfunction. Josh Allen is good enough, to overcome bad plays on the field. Now, of course, it cost him on Sunday, but he's MVP caliber quarterback. He gets thrown out there as the best player in the league often by some of the other pro football talkers and pundits. But my question is this: if you're a head coaching candidate and potential candidate, is this a job that's even attractive after seeing that press conference? How attractive is this job and this role in this position as the head coach when you see the owner will throw the coach under the bus about decisions that are ultimately, no matter who the head coach was, the GM has got to be the guy that brings him in. So when you see that kind of dysfunction going on, is this even a very attractive job that you'd want to take?
Okay, all right, very interesting question. I'll bring that over there to the Radman. There's still some job openings, head coaching openings across the league. There's only 32 football teams in the world, and so when the coaches get an offer, I would assume they would say yes. But I want to default to you, Radman. What do you think? Is the head coach position for the Buffalo Bills still an attractive position?
Oh, it's very attractive because it's only one of 32 in the league. You're going to get all kinds of people wanting this job. But as speaking with John Wooten, Pat Freeman, the Mighty Open, spoke with Mr. John Wooten, who's always part of the committee to help make sure that help put together the Rooney Rule. Mr. Wooten says, no question, he's with Leslie Frazier coming in, being interviewed by Brandon Bean to really solidify this team and calm everything down that's going on in Buffalo right now. He's a great teacher, a person that the players respect and listen to. And he's a guy that if you bring in Leslie Frazier as the head coach, Brian Dable as the offensive coordinator, and possibly Eric Washington running the defense, of course, you look what Leslie Frazier has done as the assistant head coach in Seattle, and also putting in that Bears defensive scheme in the secondary that has really helped the Seattle Seahawks. And they're partially the reason why they're playing. They're still playing. They'll be playing tomorrow against the LA Rams. But the key is you bring in somebody like a Leslie Frazier, he's going to calm things down. He knows the players. He knows the personnel. And then he can get to work to fix that defense. Because remember, that defense was taken away. With 13 seconds left in the game, McDermott going to take the defense away from McDermott. And McDermott said, hey, that's just not how it goes. I think Leslie Frazier be a good fit in Buffalo to make this thing, turn this thing around and make sure. You need a powerful head coach. You can't have these head coaches that are going to just not have the power and not be afraid to talk to the general manager and let them know that, no, we need to get this done. we need to get it done now. That's why I wrote in my column this week in Challenger Community News, Leslie Frazier would be the most prominent, excellent candidate. And we'll see if they talk to him after Seattle's game, because I believe they have a chance to talk to that during next week, during the week off, before if Seattle continues on to the Super Bowl, or if they're done, obviously he'll have a chance to talk to him. So we'll see at that point. But it's a great job opening. And you can see, look who's at. Everybody and their brother look like they're applying for it. You see, but look like the Bills are, ironically, look like they're interviewing down there everybody.
There we go, Radman. And I also just want to be able to get J-GILLZ to see what his thoughts are when it comes to this topic as well. Let's see, J-GILLZ, what are your thoughts?
I mean, when you look at the job, obviously you have Josh Allen. You have a former MVP quarterback. You have a team that offensively has been one of the better offenses for the past decade, dropping 30 at the drop of a dime. But when you ultimately look at the roster and you're a coach coming in, coaching enough isn't going to get the job done. We just saw that with Sean McDermott. Are you going to have the resources? Are you going to have the playmakers? Are you going to be able to get the personnel that's going to be needed as a head coach? And like I said, the Bills, they've been dealing with a lot of the same, design plays, the same playbooks for years, obviously tweaking it for the better, but you get a new coach in there, a new system. Is Christian Benford going to mesh with the new system? Is he going to be effective? Is Greg Rousseau going to be effective? Can Khalil Shakir be that guy in a new offensive scheme? And that's where the personnel is going to come in, and the track record there it's been proven that it hasn't been good. Brandon Beane has not been a guy that can draft good talent. Now, Sean McDermott and his coaching staff has showed that they can develop, and they can develop and put people in their scheme and fit people in their scheme. So as a head coach coming in, you have to understand that, are you going to have the resources to compete and be the best version of the team that you see? And I just don't know if that's the question. I don't know if that's really, I don't know if that's the number one option right now. I mean, if you look at me, it's still some places available. I know obviously Baltimore just hired their coach, and you're not going to find a better, quarterback than Josh Allen. And having a chance to coach an MVP quarterback like Josh Allen, even going to his 30th year, is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But when you look at the personnel decisions that's been made with Brandon Beane, knowing you're going to have a lack of resources, and knowing that this is the job that's going to have the most pressure. You're not just coaching to be a good team. You're coaching to get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. So whatever coach going into it, that's understand that's what the goal is. So the pressure, along with the lack of talent around there, is going to make a tough job. Most of these guys, and I'm not saying everybody's hardball, but no, the GM gotta go. I got full control. Most of these people, you're gonna want to get your own GM in there, somebody who can get the people that you need, because Brandon Beane just hasn't been able to do that. And until you see yourself, you're gonna kind of be like the Miami Dolphins, where you had Chris Gary, recycling coaches, you mixing and matching, but they just had to say, you know what, y'all both gotta go, and you try and find that marriage and that tie to where it's an alignment on the vision. So the Buffalo Bills job, of course, is going to be a great job, but it's going to be the most pressureful job, no doubt.
There we go. I would have to end up saying I think the two, it just was filled when it comes to Baltimore and when it comes to Buffalo. I would say those were, in my opinion, end up being the best head coaching openings, because you have two MVPs that are still in their prime. You have to come in and elevate that. Yes, it's Super Bowl or bust. They don't want to say that, but you're gonna have to do that. I mean, heck, I see other teams coming with other quarterbacks who aren't MVPs, and they could be taking them to the promised land this season. But we're gonna end up moving on to our next question that I have when it comes to this new trend that we're seeing across the NFL. But this next segment is going to be brought to you by Challenger Community News, Western New York's largest weekly African-American newspaper. Go to buffchownews.com or email articles to editor at news.com. So Gentlemen, there's been a new trend that's been going across the NFL there as well, where we're seeing Buffalo did it, we're seeing it with Tennessee, we're seeing it there with Atlanta, where it seems like owners are stepping back and creating the position there of the president of football operations, or as they like to say, the football czar. What do you guys think of this new trend? And now it's coming to Buffalo, where now you have someone that's above the GM there that's going to be running the whole show when it comes to football operations. Is this a good idea? Should you have more active owners involved? I'm going to start over there with you, Radman. What are your thoughts of the rise of this new position seem to be popping up over the last couple of years?
Well, everything changes around. It goes way back. I'd rather see the general manager be in charge and make the decisions, because that's who it is. It's the general manager that's making the key decision points. And Brandon Beane, I would like to see Malik Boyd move into that position with the Buffalo Bills. He's the head of pro football scouting and personnel. He's over the whole scouting department of the Buffalo Bills. And you better make a move quick, because if McDermott gets hired, it gets into the fray and gets hired by somewhere, I understand Cleveland or maybe some of these other teams. If he gets hired, he could easily take a Malik Boyd with him. And Jerry Gray, he could take the scouting department with him, because McDermott is the one who brought the scouting department in here. He has so many facets of the Bills that people behind the scenes that people don't realize. That's why I think Brandon Beane, I don't know what he's talking about. He need to get out of that position. If he's going to stay in there as the president of football operations, cool. But you need somebody, because you've shown you don't have the relationships. He don't know the relationships with the agents or the other 31 other owner or general managers, because some of those moves you made, the Darius Slay move was the obvious last straw. I said, if you didn't talk to Drew Rosenhaus and say, hey, Drew, it's your guy. Hey, we thinking about bringing him to Buffalo. Well, Drew he couldn't tell you, no, he's not going to come to Buffalo. He could say, hey, he's contemplating retirement now too, you guys. He would have gave him a signal that, hey, man, don't mess with him. Don't bring him don't bring him to Buffalo. And Vontae Davis, you bring these guys over the hill. That Vontae Davis, the first guy I ever seen, he retired at halftime of a Bills game a couple of years ago. The late Vontae Davis, I must say, God rest his soul. So, yeah, it's so many mess ups by McDermott with paperwork and the whole 9 yards of not knowing how that system works and not having the relationships with the other general managers out there. And I want to thank Morris Thompson on the Beltway. Love your comments your comments are looking great. You have some good comments that you're suggesting to us, and all the people that's online checking us out as well on YouTube. Thank you so much.
Okay, gotcha, Radman. So now J-GILLZ, what are your thoughts on the rise of this president of football operations position that seems to be popping up more and more across the league, where owners are stepping back? They're saying, hey, I want you to run everything football wise, and you're going to go ahead and answer there, and the head coach is going to answer to you, president of football operations. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, being the resident Dolphin fan here on the panel, it's something that I'm accustomed to. Since 2019, Brandon Shore, our vice president of football operations, has been doing a heck of a job in that role. A lot of the teams, it depends on how you utilize that position as the vice president of football operations. The way the Dolphins utilize it since 2019 is Brandon Shore. He's over the football operations, but he mainly handles all the contract negotiations. So every contract that gets done, Brandon Shore is the one that is, in charge of seeing, who's going to get what. The GM obviously is picking the players. The coach is coaching the players. But when it comes to these contracts, and that's why you've seen the success of the Dolphins, as of late, we're in casualty due to paying Tua. And who was the main guy saying that Tua did not need to get paid? That was our vice president of operations, Brandon Shore, where Chris Greer wanted Tua to get his money, the guy who drafted him. But over the years, you've seen the way that the contracts have been constructed in Miami, getting that guaranteed money up front, a lot of it as signing bonus, to where you can no guarantees in that second and third year where those guys can get cut, and then you have all that cap space. That's how the Dolphins have been operating for a long time. But as we know, once you get that quarterback into play and you paying him upwards of $55 million a year, it gets a little strenuous with all that guaranteed money. When you got an owner like Stephen Ross, who got some of the biggest pockets in the league, who can upfront a lot of that money and signing bonus for a lot of these players, You know, so it depends on how you are working that position of director of vice president of football operations. For the Dolphins, I think it's a great fit. Contractually, he works and negotiates all the contracts. He keeps us to where we can continue to pay players. And with the strategy that I'm hearing from new Dolphins general manager John Eric Sullivan and head coach Jeff Hafley of wanting to draft, develop, and keep your own players, I think that it's going to be seamless. And I think a guy like Brandon Shore is going to play a vital role in truly building that foundation of the Miami Dolphins. So when you talk about that, hey, man, the Dolphins been doing that since 2019, man. These other teams better catch up.
All righty, J-GILLZ. All right, following the Dolphins suit. The Bills have been beating the Dolphins. I'm not sure why they end up bringing that up, man. You know what we always think when it comes to the Dolphins. The Dolphins are always just a little But anyway, moving on, man. Maybe I'm biased.
Interviewing Mike McDaniel for a job. Ain't that something?
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. See, that's why he is the Miami Dolphins local expert. But Brother Bernal, man, bro talk. What are your thoughts on when it comes to this president of football operations position that's growing across the league? Good, bad, indifferent? Your thoughts, sir?
My mom used to have this saying about too many cooks in the kitchen. And so, you know, when you're adding a role like that, what exactly are you bringing in? Are you bringing another cook into the kitchen, or so it's really important that everyone understands their role. What is the role everyone's like? The only role that's clearly defined, I would say, it oftentimes is the head coach. And you could say in a lot of ways the GM. This football operations person, what exactly is their role in bringing them into the equation? Now, in Buffalo's case, it may help them in this sense is that clearly Brandon Beane doesn't have an eye for talent. So if they're moving him out, it could be seemingly promoting him for the sake of getting him out of a role that he wasn't a good fit in. So you don't necessarily want to get rid of him, but you see he's not a good fit in the role that he was previously in. It could work in that sense. And hey, you just be the person that the head coach kind of, you're the buffer between the head coach and the owner, I guess. But you for a GM, if he's making GM decisions, then that, again, we're back to square one. He doesn't have an eye for talent. And then the whole contract negotiations dynamic, that those responsibilities that fall on their GM, everyone's, you got to have an understanding of those roles. You got to be on the same page. And again, are we just adding too many cooks to the kitchen? Because if you're looking at, Buffalo, clearly Brandon Beane and McDermott weren't on the same page as it was. So it's bringing another. You're going to bring in another GM. You're going to bring in a coach. Do we have just too many folks trying to get them all on the same page in order for the sake of moving the organization forward? Again, and if we're looking at Miami, Tennessee, and Atlanta as the blueprints for this, J-GILLZ, yeah, I don't know if that's the wave that the league would. I would say get on as the league. Have a GM who does, who understands his role. Have a head coach who understands and is excellent at his role, and then then maybe start looking at possibly a president of football operations and all that good stuff. But typically, in the world I come from, promotions come from doing a good job at something, not being so bad at your job that I've said this off the time. If I was as bad at my job as you are at that, I wouldn't have a job. And so we still trying to figure out how Brandon Beane got promoted.
Hey,
I
man,
would have to end up agreeing. Have to agree there. That ended up being something very odd to see. And a shout out to the Top Gun there on YouTube. Remember, Real Deal Sports Show. Be able to like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. He says everybody wants to be the boss. Oh, okay. All right. Then we're moving on there.
My bad.
Radman, you end up having was it a
Message.
but another good message there. What do we got, Radman?
Go right ahead with that. With Top Gun's comment. Everybody wants to be the boss, but everybody doesn't know how to be the boss. That's so true. That is a so true comment there by Top Gun. Absolutely, Top Gun. You're right on time. Everybody wants to be the boss, but everybody doesn't know how to be the boss. Very good comments.
Can I throw this in there, Radman, as it relates to that comment? Because I think it's a great comment as well. One of the first traits, characteristics, or qualities or attributes about being a good boss is accountability. And the Bills lacked showing that this weekend with this press conference we've been talking about. Bean didn't accept accountability. The only accountability I've seen in the last week for the Bills, or the best example of accountability, has been from the quarterback Josh Allen.
Yes.
And he's taken a lot of heat this week. And again, his play justified a lot of the heat that he took this week. But I gotta throw this out there. For him to take the kind of heat he's taking this week, we also wouldn't even be talking about the Bills in that game if not for Josh Allen and his play this season. So to be fair to Josh Allen, I feel like we've gotta also say, hey, they wouldn't be in this position if not for Josh Allen. He played hurt. They had receivers who couldn't get open, and then they were, benching guys for games. They were, suspending them for games. It was, if not for Josh Allen in that offense, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So kudos to Josh Allen for showing the only level of accountability we've seen from the Bills this week, but also understanding, if you want to be a boss, you need to be able to show that kind of accountability. Take an example from your quarterback. Take the lead from your quarterback.
There we go. And speaking of the quarterback, they're saying that he's also going to be somewhat there involved when it comes to the Bills coaching search. And it looks like it's going to be very interesting. And gentlemen, I just want to know your reactions here. This has been a list of some of the Bills, the people the Bills have scheduled or already completed interviews with. And one thing, like they said during the press conference, they are definitely casting a wide net. So far, they have interviewed Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady, former New York Giants head coach Brian Daboll, Indianapolis Colts defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, former Miami Dolphins head coach J-GILLZ, Mike McDaniels, a.k.a. Milquetoast, Strays, former Chargers and coach quarterback Phillip Rivers, that's a head-scratcher, Washington Commanders running back coach Anthony Lynn, Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, Jacksonville Jaguars offensive coordinator Grant Udinski. And they still have the one interesting wrinkle is that the Bills can't interview the Rams, Seahawks, Patriots, or Broncos assistants until after they're eliminated from the playoffs. So, gentlemen, starting with you there, Radman. Out of all those people so far, what are your thoughts? Who do you like that they have interviewed? Who have you liked?
None, really, because you gotta go. It's Super Bowl or bust with this organization right now. Because Josh Allen, you're only going to get maybe 4 more years out of Josh Allen with the injuries. We don't know if he's going to have surgery right now or not. But right now, I would be Leslie Frazier be somebody I would be wanting to talk to. Hey, Bills fans, I know a lot of people don't like it. Bill Belichick. I talked to Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick can get you a good defense. He knows how to, and that man sure knows how to win Super Bowls with a good quarterback and a good defense. And his defense did show up. In order for him to win those Super Bowls, his defense shows up. So Leslie Frazier, Bill Belichick are my 2 guys right now. And Brian Daboll has to be involved because when he's on the sideline talking to Josh Allen and cussing him out on the sideline, Josh Allen tends to perform much better. You can't be an offensive coordinator up in the box calling down the signals. You got to be on the sideline getting in Josh Allen's face on the sideline and letting them know, no, we can't have that. You got to do this, man. This is what you need. And they were very successful with that. As we see, time is starting to run out in today's excellent show, guys. But Leslie Frazier, Brian Dable.
Okay, all right, got you, Radman. You got it, Radman. You want to do old man Bill Belichick. J-GILLZ, who do you like that that have interviewed so
as
far?
an option?
This just in. Mike McDaniels pulled himself from the Bills head coaching search, still in play in Oakland. But if you ask me, I'm right there with how I started the show. Radman, you got to get the Buffalo Bill. That's the only way that this is going to work. He has the pedigree. He has the championship history. And I'm telling you right now, he's walking in there, and he's going to definitely be somebody that people can immediately respect for his football operations, because let's not talk about off the field. But on the field, his football, he's somebody that they can respect, and I think he's the only guy for the job.
Okay, J-GILLZ, awesome. Bro talk. Who do you like that the Bills have interviewed?
I'm with Radman. I don't like anybody that they've interviewed. I think the thought of bringing Phillip Rivers in as a head coach, again, if you want him on the, maybe work with your quarterbacks, but the head coach, the expectations are Super Bowl or bust, and you did, and for his name to come up shows the lack of a plan in place after the firing of McDermott, which is crazy to me. So I gotta go with my comrades on this one. Bill Belichick has the cachet to come in and for a locker room of guys who have Super Bowl expectations. Hear me out. If you got a locker room of guys with Super Bowl beliefs and confidence in their quarterback to get them there, you got to have a head coach who generates the same kind of confidence in the guys in the locker room. Bill Belichick is one of the only guys right now that can walk in the locker room and get that kind of confidence, generate that kind of confidence in the team. And then the other one is, I'm with Radman, Leslie Frazier. He knows the organization. He knows the players. McDaniels, I liked his offensive mind. I do believe Dayball's got to be in the conversation as an offensive coordinator type of thing. But again, he hasn't showed enough to me for the team that think he's going to be a head coach, a successful head coach with Super Bowl aspirations.
Very interesting thoughts on there. But BacSpin, who do you think of? What's your thoughts on who the Bills have interviewed so far? I know you're a resident Cowboys fan, and we all know how that could go. That's always a rough go of it. But tell us about the Bills. What do you think?
I think the Bills. I'm kind of upset because last year I bought a Bills hat. It's like a Black Lives Matter Buffalo Bills hat, limited edition. So I bought one of those, hoping that they would go last year and I could rock the hat. Can't rock the hat. This year I got a Wu-Tang Buffalo Bills shirt. So I was hoping I could rock, the Wu-Tang and the Bills hat and the shirt, and at the Super Bowl. Nope, can't do it. I wanted to do it for my pops. He's a diehard Bills fan. And so, both of those will be sitting in my closet for another, I was hoping maybe another year, but who knows now that they done got rid of McDermott and they're shaking up the whole organization. I think we're looking at Bills back down, going to be on the decline once again. And like I said, who knows when I'm going to be able to rock that stuff. So it's going to sit up in the closet, put it in the tote, and hopefully I can bring it out, before it's all said and done. But to answer your question, my brother, I don't think the Bills are going to be doing anything anytime soon. And, when they restructured, I mean, look, how much longer does Josh Allen have on his contract? Does anybody know?
All I know is that immediately he's 30 years old. And with his playing style, I think he maybe has 4 more years. Or was it 4 more years? Okay.
Oh, wow. Well,
and he's 30 years old.
Good.
With his physical playing style.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see.
Unless they get him a Bill Belichick type coach. Mike Tomlin's out there now. He's up for grabs. I think he could bring a change in the Buffalo. But unless they do that, get a hard-nosed disciplinary coach, and they got to get some receivers in there, and I think we're looking at the decline. And right now, Buffalo is in their prime. You got Cook in his prime. You got, you know, Josh Allen in his prime. So, you know, you have all of these guys, you know, Dion Dawkins in his prime. You got all of these guys who can get you to the championship, but you got to put the pieces around them to make it happen. And firing McDermott definitely wasn't, in my opinion, a good move, just because of the camaraderie and the chemistry that the team has built together. When you break up that dynamic, who knows what can happen in the future. But I don't think it's going to be good for the Buffalo Bills or the Bills Mafia. So.
Well, hey, BacSpin, he always coming in, bringing us some knowledge in there, and I would have to end up being saying, I guess I'm the only one that's looking forward for the Bills to go ahead and interview Clint Kubiak, offensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks. They worried about the locker room. Hey, we have about 10 active starters who, in my opinion, who are often injured and underperform. That's going to be free agents. It's my guess that about a third of the roster will not be here next year. And with the young, new, fresh head coach, hey, he could hit the ground running, who's offensive minded. So, hey, that ends up being our thoughts there. But, gentlemen, Radman, quick final thoughts. What do you guys have?
We got to go. So
we got to go back in time, Mitch.
Sorry, y'all final thoughts, but I gotta pay these bills, my brothers. I got to pay these bills. With that being said, Real Deal Sports Show, thank y'all, man, and I look forward to chopping it up with you guys again next week, 8 a.m. right here on The Beat. Keep it where you need it, Roxy. The Back in Time Show is on the way.